Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where in this wonderful world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. We are back with a bang. Don't say we don't do nice things for you. Let's rock and roll.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Hey everyone, it's so good to be back, and let me say, what a cast of characters I have for you. This is the best way to end the new year. Super Kevin Campbell is here. You know, even when he's not here, he's still here. And when he isn't here, I lose my manners. So at Squaddies, welcome to the show. Joining me is show regular, Mr. Warren Barton, Newcastle icon, Fox Soccer analyst and commentator in the top corner there. Welcome back, Warren.
Thank you for having me.
We also have back, it's been about a year and a bit since he's been on the show, but we've got Greenville Triumph coach and US men's national team legend, trailblazer, first American player to play in the UK, I believe, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. John Harkes is back. And one of my favorites, a mentor,
Thank you.
a friend,
Pleasure.
but also an absolute legend who's helping change the game here in the United States. Lady Lowe herself, Rebecca, is back. Come on, get in.
Thank you, Soph. Thank you. I apologise, by the way. I've just realised my background. I'm in a hotel. I didn't make the bed this morning. So I'm now trying to make myself like really big, like Peter Schmeichel, so no one can see the dreadful hotel.
Don't make yourself too big with the VAR these days, you know what I mean?
It's true, John. That's true.
So you can't tell Teddy off again when he doesn't make his bed. Okay, so we've got you on that one. Thanks so much for joining, you guys. Just brilliant. And I tell you what I love about this is that we've got the expats who are living in the US. We've got the US legend here. We've got Rebecca, who was just in the UK, and she's going to give us a breakdown of our beloved Arsenal because she saw them firsthand. Warren, who played for Newcastle and his team doing well. So this is going to be a fantastic conversation today. We've got a couple of really great questions for the guys from Super Kev as well. But I want to start, of course, with the biggest news in football and the passing of an absolute legend. I think he's the GOAT. And, you know, when you kind of look at what he's achieved, 3 World Cups, it felt inevitable that this day was going to come. But now it's come. It just feels, you know, doesn't matter how old somebody is or the fact that you know that they're about to pass, but when it happens, you feel like this empty void and space. So before I get your take, I'm going to lob Kev's question because then we can all talk about it together because I'm sure it's going to come up in our discussion. So here's Kev's first question and then we get stuck into Pele.
Warren, John Harkes, Warren Barton, question for you. Who's your greatest of all time? King Pele's gone and passed away. But who's your all-time greatest of all time? Squaddies, Sophie, Rebecca, at ease, enough respect. And have a lovely, lovely 2023 if I don't speak to you. All the best. At ease, Squaddies.
All right,
His energy is the best. So let's get the player take first, and then Rebecca and I can give our take on the fact that we've not played the game, but of course have been around the game. Warren, let's start with you on Pele.
He's the greatest, you know, to win it 3 times, and not only what he did on the field, I think what he did off the field to elevate the game to a whole new level. And Neymar said it perfectly, you know, before the number 10 was just a number, but now it's an iconic number that's associated with Pele. I was lucky enough to meet him a couple of times, but the last time was in Paris in '98. And just a real humble person, a nice man, had time for everybody. And I think because of how he was off the field, you tend not to realise how great he was on the field because he was so humble. And, you know, us being lucky in the last decade or probably a little bit longer to have Ronaldo and Messi going toe to toe and before our time, you know, seeing someone like Pele play the way he did, but speaking to people in the game, understanding what he did for, particularly in America, you know, when he come out of retirement and come over here in the NSL League and promoted that with the likes of, you know, Rodney Marsh, who we speak over here, George Best, then players, Beckenbauer, Cruyff had come along, and everybody at that level said he's the best. And when someone like Beckenbauer and Cruyff say that about someone like him, you understand. So yeah, my memory of whenever I think of a World Cup, I think of Brazil. When I think of Brazil, I think of Pele. You know, not old enough, although I look it, to watch him play, but he was still, you know, someone that was very iconic to everybody in the UK. That save from Gordon Banks, that I think was the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, where Gordon Banks made that save and Pele goes over to him and gives him a hug. I think that epitomises what the game's all about. And he was just such a great role model for everybody. And as I said, sad day. So you said it rightly. Even though you sort of understand that it's coming to an end, it's still, you know, it hits you a little bit because we love the game. And he made us fall in love with the game, the way he played and the way he conducted himself on and off the field. I think he was a joy to be around. And as I said, I feel myself very fortunate to have been in his company once or twice.
Wow. Amazing. John, how about yourself? Did you meet the man? And then answering Kev's question about who your GOAT is.
Yeah, well said, by the way, Warren. You know, and I echo quite a bit about that. I had an emotional connection to him because I was a ball boy with the Cosmos when I was younger. So I got to be in the tunnel and interact with him and Beckenbauer and Canalia and all the greats that were on this world all-star team that came across and established themselves in 75. And, you know, when he was retiring in 77, in that speech that he made as well, it just hit home because it was all about love. You know, we talk about the love for the game and, you know, all the great work that, you know, Warren has done over the years and what Rebecca's doing now and transcending the game and moving it to a whole new platform, which is fantastic for the growth of the game. I think, similar to what Warren said, I've always seen that he was so endearing to other people on a consistent basis. It never changed, and he just loved it. And he was doing it. He was doing all the moves that, you know. And I love Messi. My God, I couldn't be happier. My wife and I were celebrating in Turks and Caicos when Messi won the final, and we just love him so much. But to go back where Pele was doing this, what everyone's doing now, and Ronaldo's and the Mbappe's and everything, at 15, 16, and 17 years old. And so he made his pro debut, I think, at 15. He was an international player at 16. At 17, he's scoring a hat trick internationally for Brazil, and he puts them on the map and then wins his first World Cup. And you think about the odds of a younger player that age, and we did see a lot of younger players in this last World Cup, which were phenomenal. But when you think back to, he was already doing it back in the day. And regardless of even what Pep Guardiola was saying, it doesn't matter if you took him and put him into the modern day football, he would adapt because cerebrally, he was just so smart and intelligent. Spatial orientation was fantastic on the pitch. And but just that connection. And when we were playing in the World Cup at home, luckily for us, we were able to play in that. And you know, your own country, it's a fantastic platform. And there he is in the tunnel when I'm coming out against Colombia, and he says, Jean, and he gives me a hug, and everyone's looking at me, and I'm thinking, do I owe him money for that? But it's just, you know, it's just one of those moments where, like, how are you not inspired to go play against in a World Cup game when the best king of greats just gave you a hug? And he was just such a character. And then you interview him, you know, later in media when I was doing, and you get to interview, and then you sit down in the off takes. And I'm sure Rebecca now does that with so many quality people as well and personalities in the game. And some of them want to talk to you and share just everyday lives with you, and some don't. He always sat there. He had the most time for you. It was fantastic. And whether it was football or life or the love of the game, he was always trying to grow it in the right way. So I just, you know, I love him. I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah, they say don't meet your heroes, but for every story I've heard, Rebecca, and all the you know, the narratives, anecdotes about Pele, is that he was this incredible, friendly, gracious man. And, you know, of course, he was an amazing footballer. From the other side, for you as a broadcaster, and you've interviewed some of the best players in the world, throughout your entire career. What does this feel like for you? Is he the GOAT for you? What's your take?
Yeah, I think Sophie, for me, yes, he is. I mean, I never saw him play. By the way, John being a ball boy has blown my mind.
Isn't it? It blew my
That
mind
is
too. I
just,
didn't know
sorry,
that.
that is just amazing. You
What
need to
would have been
tell-
worse is the uniforms we had to wear to be a ball boy. It was a progressive
Were you-
ball boy, and if one spark hit it, it was all up. It was done.
That is so good. That is so good. Yeah, for me, I think I mean, I don't love this. I'm kind of getting annoyed by the whole greatest of all time debate because
Yeah,
me too.
it's just subjective, and I don't really care other than that he was just incredible. And I put it on my Instagram this morning about Tancredi Palmieri, the football journalist, who put on his Twitter feed today that 2-minute video where there isn't even a goal in it, right, from Pele. It was just his. I mean, the nutmegging that goes on is off the charts. It just brings a smile to your face. The way he did everything was like a hot knife through butter. I don't understand how somebody can make something which, as John and Warren will attest to, so difficult, right? It's so difficult to play football at the highest, at all. I mean, it's really hard at the highest level, and then make it look like he made it is otherworldly. I went in this morning to the studios to voice a tribute, which we're going to open the show with tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. And I've voiced quite a lot of obituaries before, and often they're quite difficult to get through. This one, I really felt like by the end, I was like, oh, it was really, really tough because of, and I'm not likening him to the Queen. I'm just likening the fact that he touched so many people like the Queen did. So when she died, it was the way that it affected swathes of people around the world, not just in sort of in England for the Queen, but everywhere. And the same with this. It's not just in football, it's everywhere. And as John was saying, and Warren was saying off the field, like, what a nice guy he sounded. I never met the guy, but he sounded like, wow. So an all-round sort of piece of perfection, really, as a human being. I really think that the Premier League need to do more than what they're going to do. Sorry to bring it to the modern day.
I was going to ask. I saw your Instagram post, and
yeah. So if I mentioned it today, they're going to do black armbands and a minute's applause. What are we doing? What are we doing with the black armbands and a minute's applause? That's what we do for everybody. This is Pele, guys. Let's think outside the box. Let's do 2 minutes of silence. I don't care if somebody screams half the way through. No one cares about those idiots. We're not doing silence because of 3 idiots. Let's do something more, you know? So I'm disappointed with that. And I think that there should be more, much more, actually. And it's not hard to get some creative minds involved in this. They've had 3 days to think about it. Jeez.
Do you guys agree that the games should be going ahead this weekend? Because, or what I would love
I do. Yeah, no, I do. I think he would want that.
Yeah.
He would want that. But I think Rebecca's right. Let's do something a little bit more. Let's be a little bit creative about the best player that's ever played a game. All I've ever known is Pele playing. You know, that's when I'm that age, and reverting back to what Rebecca said about the Queen, all I ever knew was the Queen. So now he's gone. So let's do something that is rightful for someone of a legacy that he's touched everybody in the world. Everybody, not just in Brazil or in the United States or in the UK. Everybody across the world he's involved with, because you ask any kid, any person, anyone about it, it's Pele. So you're right. He would want that, and let's go and embrace it, and let's embrace what he did for the game. But let's think a little bit more than just a minute applause and let's get on with the game. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
but everyone should play, and whatever it is.
Agree.
I'm sure John would do the same thing, but from that point of view, go and embrace the game and enjoy like he did, because he made it fun.
Well, that's the thing about it. He inspired so many to play the game, and love the game. And, it needs to be a little bit more elaborate than just a minute silence, without a doubt. I mean, he is the king of kings. He was the man who started it all back in the day and spread the love. I mean, he was just fantastic. So, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, make it a little bit bigger. Think outside the box a little bit here, please,
But Sophie, the problem is that, and I'm fairly unpopular when I say this, but I think we do too much of this generally. And so when we do the amount of black armbands that trust me, I have to say it, I feel like I have to say it every 3 weeks that they're wearing black armbands. And it's quite a sensitive area, obviously, but I just think we have to save some things for greatness. And now because we've done minute silences and we've done minutes applauses and we've done black armbands. We've got nowhere else to go, or we have, if we think outside the box. So it feels like, I can't believe we're doing
becomes
that.
common.
Pele.
It becomes
Yes.
common, right, Rebecca? Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more on this subject, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's the same thing with the GOAT debate. You know, someone scores, or we see a game, it's the greatest game. We see a goal, it's the greatest goal. We see a good player, he's a great player, he's world class. But what is the definition of world class? What is the definition of greatness? And because I think there's this insatiable appetite to appease everybody, we're muddying the waters in terms of then how we honor people in terms of what they've actually achieved. So I don't think it's a slight in any way to say that. I completely agree with you. And then here we are at this point, and you're not the first. I saw, you know, Russell Brand and a whole bunch of other people compared it to the passing of the Queen, and he's a king in his way. And when you look at his life and how he grew up, and, you know, to be able to achieve the things that he's done, I think that, yes, absolutely, he deserves better. And you mentioned the video and things like that. It seems to me that maybe sometimes things happen so quickly, but at the same time, you're prepared for this. Like the BBC had the Queen stuff ready to go. You know, I'm sure they've had these clips and stuff of Pele ready to go. So it just seems that, you know, we're just trying to appease everyone across the board, and that doesn't always work in many ways. Okay, so, you know, I wanted to share something with you guys too. I had the pleasure of interviewing Carlos Alberto about 10 years ago, John, through the New York Cosmos. And because I wanted you to share an anecdote if you had one, but he said to me that up until that day when we spoke, whenever he spoke to his friend Pele, he would always thank him for that pass in the 1970 World Cup final, because it was the only goal he scored in the World Cup. And in his position at that time, you know, because he transcended that position, didn't he? That wing back role. You know, you didn't have defenders bombing forward in that day. And he said that, I just wanted to share that with you, because even the great Carlos Alberto, who was the captain and lifted the World Cup, he said that he thanked him every day. And then at the time, Spain were the World Cup champions. And I said to him, do you think the Spain team, the 2010 team, could have beaten your 70 team? And he goes, look, they're really super talented. He goes, and I don't usually like those questions, but there's no way they would have beaten us because they didn't have a guy called Pele. And, you know, that's the difference. I don't know, John, if you had a quick anecdote that you wanted to share.
Just, I mean, you pick up things as a kid, you know, when you're around greatness like that. You're so excited and you're enthusiastic, and you see the players coming to warm up, and you've got to do things and get out the way, and then you're putting water on the sideline sometimes and on the touchline. But I do remember one thing, and I can remember too, Carlos Alberto actually he would refer to him as Eddie or Edson. And it was like that's what made things different. And I'm like, is he crazy? Who's he talking to? You know, because you're younger and you're like, it's just Pele. It's Pele. What's he doing? And then you're like, oh, his real name. Oh, okay. I got to find that out. But he would say things like that. But I remember Pele saying something briefly in a post game, and Carlos was in there, Beckenbauer, and they're all supposed to go up to the media and talk. And like, we were all little gangsters, you know, street kids, and we'd all kind of sneak in and we'd all be hanging around in the back. Did you hear what he said? Yeah, that was great. You know, and he said something to the effect of, and I think he said it was published later, where as a striker, why would you turn your back? Why would you have your back to the goal? I always want to be facing the goal, going to goal. So why, as a striker, would I want to be good holding the ball up and with my back to the goal? So that was one thing that stood out to me as an 11, 10-year-old kid. I was just like, okay, that makes sense. And then the other thing he said was, and he would talk to us in the ball kids once in a while, and he'd tell us, never turn your back to the field. Always look at us, be ready to throw the ball back in. And I kept thinking of the two kind of things that he said. Don't put your back to the goal and don't turn your back to the field. Always keep your eyes on the field all the time. And as Warren will attest to, and even Rebecca now, joking around with media people, when you're a player and there's a media person on the sideline in training or whatever, you're always trying to ping a ball over there to see if you can hit them, right? Joking around, just for a laugh. Right, Rebecca, am I right?
That reminds you of Martin Keown.
It happened to me.
Right?
I was presenting pitchside at Arsenal against Leeds in the FA Cup the day that Henry came back for his second spell, and he scored in the FA Cup, and I was standing there. And in the pre-game, it was me, Martin Keown, and Robbie Savage. They were definitely aiming for Robbie Savage, obviously, and they hit Martin. Yes. Yeah, they hit Martin Keown on the head. It was genius.
Brilliant. Great
and,
stuff.
And Warren knows he's been that guy too, who's been on the ball and he's just chipping one over there cheekily and then picked up another one and walked away like, oh, you all right? What happened? You know, so we've all been there. But I do remember when Pele said that to me as a ball boy, but also the way he tried it as a footballer, as a striker, which was brilliant. The original number 10. Let's be honest. Number 10.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story then, John, if that's like you said about that story about Pele, and this is how he's transcended the game. So Bobby Robson took over from Ruud Gullit after Alan Shearer was left out against Sunderland. And Bobby Robson said to Alan in front of the boys, why do you keep coming short for the ball? I want you facing the goal. So that's come from Pele to Sir Bobby Robson to Alan Shearer. We played Sheffield Wednesday. We played Sheffield Wednesday the next day. Sorry, John, it's your old team.
Please, don't tell me what the result was. Just keep going.
We beat them 8-0 and Alan got 5 goals.
Well, I was not on the pitch then. No, I was not there. I was moved on. No. Son. I'm already gone.
I love it. Brilliant stuff.
That line from Pele translates to someone like Sir Bobby Robson.
Isn't that incredible?
That's brilliant to hear that. Yeah. And Bobby Robson was a legend in himself, man. What a wow.
I live for these stories. These are the best.
I won't tell you what Alan said about Ruud Gullit.
Oh, I want to know.
Well, if it's anything like Vinnie Jones used to say about him, then it's not gonna be much different, is it?
Yeah, or LA Galaxy fans, that's for sure. Well, look, the number 10 will never be the same again, but for him, because of him, it is the wonder that it is. Right. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your thoughts on Pele. And, you know, it's been an exciting start to the season in the Premier League. We had a little break with the World Cup. I'm trying to keep together. You know, as an Arsenal fan, we suffer from PTSD. You know, the world's waiting for us to fall off the cliff. But my friend Rebecca here, I know she's going to reassure me, having just come hot off the Emirates. Okay. So, Rebecca, I've got a question for you for Super Kev, and then you're going to break it down for us. Here we go.
Okay. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Sophie. Squaddies, how you doing? Just a quick question for you, Rebecca. Obviously, you were covering the games in the UK and at the Emirates against West Ham. What were your thoughts on Arsenal before? And now you've seen them up close personal. What are your thoughts on the Arsenal now? Obviously, no Jesus, but you actually saw them live. So what's your thoughts on that? And question number 2, got to slip in a bonus like Sophie does. Do you reckon Arsenal can do it if they make key additions and win the title? Anyway, look after yourself. Lots of love. Happy New Year to you and all the squaddies. Love you all. Sophie, love you. Take good care, everybody, and at ease.
I love it. I love the way every video that Kevin does, it's like he's never going to come back again. It's like, take care, Happy New Year, I love you, everyone. And then he comes back again in like 5 minutes with another question.
Is it just me, or does he look exactly the same?
He doesn't age.
100%.
Dude never ages. So annoying.
Yeah. So annoying. Okay, so before I went to see Arsenal, so 2 questions. Okay, so before I went to see Arsenal, having watched the first section of the season, so by the way, you're saying everyone's waiting for you to drop off a cliff. I don't think anybody wants you to drop off a cliff. I think if you're a neutral, you want Arsenal to win this Premier League, or Newcastle, Warren, because you want a change. We don't just want Man City to win every year. That's not anti-City. We just want different clubs to do well. So I don't think anyone's waiting necessarily, other than maybe worried you might, but want you not to. The difference, I think, between watching Arsenal from the studio and then watching them in real life was quite surprising to me. I mean, they were really bloody good. They were really, really good. Second half especially. I mean, first half they were pretty good. Second half was like, all right, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is like watching the Arsenal under Wenger all those years, 20 years ago, when it was just ping, 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 Henry and Perez and all those incredible players. It felt like that again. And I'm sure you read this or heard it, but when West Ham scored the penalty, as soon as the ball went in, it was that sort of 3 seconds to allow the West Ham fans to celebrate. And then I was sat quite high up in that behind the dugouts. And then the whole of the stadium sort of got up and started cheering and encouraging the team, which I have been to the Emirates a number of times down the years. A, the atmosphere was never this good. I've never known it to be this good. And B, I've never seen that happen ever. So, but watching them, I mean, Saka is just incredible. I just think it feels different it just feels different. It feels different to how Arsenal have sometimes flattered to deceive before. There's no
answer the question. Now. Can I win it? You're painting a great picture. We love them. They're great. Yes. They're young.
They can win it.
Okay.
Definitely they can win it, Warren. Definitely they can win it. Although your lot are looking blooming good, but I think absolutely Arsenal can win it. Love watching them. Love it. Love it.
So I one of the players that some Arsenal fans didn't get, and I'll get to you, Barton, in a minute. I see where you're going with that one. It might be too soon. Maybe it's too soon for your Newcastle the way it was too soon for us last season, but we'll get to that eventually. One of the players that not a lot of Arsenal fans got early on was Odegaard, who I call Odegaard. I just think he's sublime. He's just a special player. In that second half, I think it's the best football I've seen him play. Did the Cruyff spin as well. I want to know as well, like from John and Warren, like a player like that maybe fans don't get at first. We've seen this team. It seems like, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe saved us for so long. Then Jesus comes in, changes the mentality. He's infectious, his mental attitude, what he's been able to infuse across the side in the dressing room has been sensational. Hearing Saka talk about the fact that he wasn't playing, yet he was still present in the moment. But for me, this guy has been so important and integral. And a lot of people think that maybe without Jesus, we can't push forward. I think our midfield is so important. I'll start with you, John, on your take on Arsenal and a player like Odegaard, if you played with someone like that or not, and him being underappreciated, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of those players where he could be like the unsung hero that's quiet, goes about his business, but at the same time, everything's data driven these days, right? When you look at the analysis, and he's like 93% or more passes completed. Now that's subjective as well. That could go backwards passing, 5-yard passing, whatever. But he's starting to create more chances going forward for Arsenal. And that's the key. He has that intelligence to see the game a little bit step ahead. And what I like about him, and he's fantastic, and he got the top rating the other day against West Ham. And I don't like cheering for teams that beat my former clubs that I played for and stuff, but it is always nice to see a player play like that. And he's playing freely and he has the confidence. So there's a trust factor there. As well, when you're a manager and you're managing people, and there you have trust in there, and you create that environment for them to actually stand up and just play the game they want to play. It's phenomenal. And that's what he's doing. He's just taking off. And I think, that's where Arteta, he's got it going now. He's learned along the way what his best 11 may be. And he's playing to his strengths. But there's also these dynamic advantages that are on the pitch. And what I love to see about it is whether it's an Arsenal or it's a Man City or whoever it may be, or a Newcastle under Eddie Howe, he's a fantastic manager. You look at footballers and you go, God, there it is. It clicks. That's it. There's that one little ingredient that sometimes is missing with certain clubs. It's been missing from my Liverpool for a while with Klopp and dynamic and injuries and everything.
Liverpool, listen to Harkes here. My Liverpool, eh?
Yeah, that's right. 11 years old. 11 years old. That was the only videotapes I can actually see in the Carney Scots Club, social club. So that's all we got was Liverpool's European conquest.
You're showing your age when you said video.
That's right.
You're showing your age when you said video.
I got an 8-track I want you to listen to. No one knows what a video is. I got you a great 8-track I want you to hear this, listen to the sound. But I would say this, when you have a manager that trusts in you and then allows you to play freely, that's what you're seeing from Odegaard right now. He is playing freely. It's brilliant. Really nice to see.
So Warren,
so
Rebecca says...
Before you go to Warren, just one thing quickly. Isn't it so funny? So often in football, a player comes on loan, plays really, really well, and then you buy them and they're rubbish. Odegaard came on loan and was like slightly underwhelming, and then you bought him and everyone was like, And look at him. He's done completely
Yeah.
opposite. Oh, sorry, Warren.
No, it's no. I love. Hey,
No, but
I mean,
Rebecca, I just
the
wanted
hostess
on the
with
back end of that, Sophie, that is when a manager sees you on a loan spell.
Yeah.
But when a manager defines your role for you, that's when you rise up. And that's what's happened. He's actually defined his role for him in the team.
And he also has, Jesus makes a difference though to that, doesn't he? Because when that's I think why some Arsenal fans weren't sure when we bought him, because they're like, really? That's kind of where we're spending the money. But when you had an apathetic Aubameyang and an underperforming Lacazette, and then you were relying on, Saka, God bless him, who did everything he could to carry us, at times. And now you have a presser like Jesus, runners like Martinelli now, who's solidified that position on the
Quality.
left. It makes a total difference. Warren, Rebecca says that she doesn't think people want us to fall off the cliff. Arsenal fans really do believe.
Just neutrals.
But okay, so neutral pundits, I think, people in the media, Kevin says it all the time. He's got a bee in his bonnet about it. And a lot of Arsenal fans do, in that they can't wait for us to fall off the cliff, to throw those darts again.
No.
Listen, they'll all come out in chat, my squaddies.
Everyone looks through their own coloured glasses, right? So so on a Saturday morning, if I wear a blue dress, people are like, oh my God, Chelsea fan today, are you? I see, yeah, Chelsea fan, knew you. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, whatever coloured dress I wear, apparently, if I wear a black and white one, I'm a Newcastle fan. And I honestly, I can show you, social media, 1 minute, I'm an Arsenal fan, then I'm a Liverpool fan. And it's like, no, guys, no one's got it out for anyone. Honestly, I promise you, no one has. We're just trying to analyse everybody. Sorry, Warren. Finally, you can talk.
I was going to say, so here you're a gooner then, aren't you, Vex? Look, you're in red.
Look at me. Oh, also, I'm a gooner. But here, today, I'm a Man City fan, obviously. And the fact that I'm on an Arsenal podcast probably now means I'm an Arsenal fan.
No, I shouldn't be wearing blue, to be honest with you. Sacrilegious. I didn't know what I was thinking.
Warren looked like a king in that last shot, by the way. He looked like a king, of England. If you look back, look at that. Hello.
I was in deep thought. I was in deep thought there. Lexi Lalas had said something to me, and I'm trying to figure out what he's talking about.
It probably went in one and came out the other if it was Lalas.
Was that before the headbutt or after the headbutt, Warren? And you gave Lexi?
Yeah, that would have been before. I was like, really? And then just
absolutely.
I'm a Scottish kid.
Well,
but no, listen,
go on, Warren.
Arsenal, Arsenal are a joy to watch. And you're talking about players maybe that was underappreciated. I put Gary Speedwood into very similar to that at Newcastle, because he played so well, because he was gifted, because he trained well. And John touched on it. Arteta, the biggest thing I think for any player is to give him the trust by a coach. And that gives you that confidence to go out. And then Rebecca said about the fans getting behind it. It's very similar to what's happening at Newcastle. Eddie's shown faith in his players. You've seen Almiron, Joe Linton. They look totally different players to what they was under Steve Bruce. The fans now, if there is any hiccup, they get behind the team rather than groaning and moaning. And, I've been in front of that where you've got 52,000 people groaning and you have to try and get through that and give them confidence. But when you've had a player like, a Gary Speed, who I was lucky enough to play with, and a Rob Lee that consistently play well, obviously train well. Arteta's seen him on the other side that he trains well. He's made him captain. So he trusts him. He made him captain. So as a player, that's a huge confidence booster for someone like Arsenal to go with their team. My only question would be for Arsenal, and I had it when we was at Newcastle for 2 years. We only had one person that won it, was Peter Beardsley when he was at Liverpool. We'd never had a winner to go over that finishing line, and we finished second twice. So Arsenal, it's great at the moment. They come back after the World Cup break. They get a result against West Ham at home after going a goal down. It's when they play a big time game, like we did against Man United, a Monday night. Everybody's watching. Everybody's there. We kill them in the first half. We didn't score a goal. Kevin Keegan then says at halftime, go and do exactly the same. At that point, we was 9 points clear. We go out again. We get caught on the sucker punch. We end up losing the game 1-0 with Cantona scoring. Schmeichel making save after save against Les and Ginola and Peter. Then that little bit of doubt comes in. So that will be Arsenal's test. It won't be coming back against West Ham. It'll be when they play a Man City at home. When you think the likes of Liverpool will start coming good. You think the likes of, I'm not sure with Chelsea, but Man United will start pushing up the Spurs, a London derby, even a Newcastle away. How are they going to get on in them games? We'll see what Arsenal are made of. It's
well,
that
the
mental toughness.
January is brutal for us, and January is when our season kind of fell off the cliff a little bit. Last season, we got knocked out of, even though we played really well against Liverpool in the League Cup. We got beaten by Forest in the FA Cup. It was just not good. And now we've got Manchester United coming up. We've got the North London Derby coming up. We have Newcastle on the 3rd. And Rebecca, we're playing Manchester City. We've got the game that was postponed coming up. And we've got the match on February 15th. February 14th is Valentine's Day.
Oh. You ain't going to win it then. You're coming down with the Christmas decorations.
Oh, here we go. Rebecca, you saw City play against Leeds, and I don't think City have even hit 5th gear yet, which might be a problem.
No, I mean, they weren't bad, but actually the guy said it in the post-game show. Having watched Arsenal and City within 3 days of each other, Arsenal were definitely more impressive. And City, it's the Haaland factor, obviously, with City that's the problem. You just got to hope he gets injured. Sorry, you just got to hope he keeps getting loads of niggly injuries. But going back to what Warren said about winners and Peter Beardsley, it's interesting. That's why Jesus is so important. That's why Jesus, they need him. They need him. If he can't play until early March, they need him in and around, because he is the only one who's won the Premier League however many times, 3, I think, with Man City. So much was made of that winning mentality and of that ability to be a winner. They need him obviously back as soon as possible, late February, early March, I'm hearing. I'm really interested in the Nketiah thing. I'm really interested in Ian Wright seems to be a massive fan, and I take whatever Ian Wright says and I just go with it because he's the best. I watched it. He looked so desperate for a goal. His body language on whatever night it was, Boxing Day night, he was so desperate when he got it. And what a lovely goal that was.
What a goal.
It was like one of those moments where you were just so happy for him, because you can imagine yourself being that player, like being that sort of reserve, and then finally getting your opportunity and actually following through with that, getting that first Premier League start of the season and actually doing what Arteta needs him to do. I still don't think that they're going to play him all the way until Jesus gets back. I hope they do, though. For people who know a lot more than me about the game, I'd love to know what you guys think, but I want to see Arteta give him a go at least. But it's risky, isn't it? It's risky if you give him a go and he doesn't do it.
Here's this Kev has reservations. Warren, let me tell you this real quick before you jump in, because Kev has reservations about Eddie. He thinks Eddie's short-term guy cannot do it over a long term. So
How do we know that? How does he know that?
He believes that. He believes that he doesn't have the quality as a striker, and he's thinking about it as a striker, right? He just doesn't think he has all of the tools and the qualities that Arteta seeks in a forward to be able to be consistent over a longer period of time in that system. Warren?
I was going to throw this to John as well, but playing against Arsenal without Jesus, I would be pretty comfortable. Not comfortable, but I would look forward to the game. With Jesus in there, that winning mentality, his movement, the false nine, the goals that he can get, they're a different team. I'm not saying the young player can't cause problems, but I go back to what I said before. When they go back against the bigger teams, the better centre-half, the better defenders, the better holding midfield players, have they got enough? And do they believe it? Do Arsenal players believe that they can win it? Because if I play against Arsenal at the moment without who they may missing at the moment, I fancy my chances. If I'm a top team, if I'm if I'm Newcastle going down there and I'm wearing black and white against that lot, John, I don't know whether you agree, but I fancy my chances against Arsenal. I know they're good. I know their movement's good. I know Saka's good, but I think you can get at the 2 centre halves. I think you can run off the midfield players. That's how I would look at it as a player. They are a good team.
I think we have the best midfield in the after City. Sorry, John. I'll let John speak. I won't go into fan mode here.
That's how I feel as an ex-player, as a coach, looking against that Arsenal team. That's what I feel. I think they're good. I think they can move. I think they're an exciting team. But then I look at what they may be a little bit vulnerable doing. And that's just me looking at it from a...
See, you're wrong. The internet even cut you out.
Sophie, how did you do that?
I'm back. Don't worry about that. No. I'm back. You can't get rid of me that easy. I'm back. You can't get rid of me that easy. I'm coming back.
Go on, John.
Help me
No,
out,
I
John.
just think, and Sophie, I think it's important that you do interject, because we all talk about our emotions in the game. That's what drives our game. You know, the passion and the emotions and the opinions. Everybody has one. You know, I go back to, it's always easy. Like if Arsenal have 9 great games out of 10, people look at, like, back in September, the game they lost to, was it Man U? I think it was it maybe 3-1 or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, the
And
Old Trafford game. Yeah, I was at that game. It was brutal.
Game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, everyone picks apart a team based on that specific game. Like, oh, they were really poor in transition when they lost the ball, or they don't tuck in enough, or, you know, Martinelli, he doesn't press the game enough, and all this stuff at certain times. But for me, I think overall, I think they're getting to a point, and maybe, you know, there's always opinions there. I think they're getting to a point, whether Jesus is on the pitch or not, there's a system that's in place. And if you're not doing your role, defined in your role in this system, you're not on the field and you're not on the pitch. And I think that Arsenal, they've done a great job of running away with things. This period of time, every single football year, defines a club. This period of time, the consecutive games, if a manager has the depth in his squad to rotate the right players at the right time, when to keep people fresh, that's it. If you come out of January where you're still 1 or 2 and you're flying, I think Arsenal have a big time chance of winning this Premier League, without a doubt.
God, you guys are killing me. Rebecca, help. So
just breathe. All good.
You
Rebecca,
interviewed.
get that red dress on. Get that red dress on.
I already have a cold. Rebecca,
Yeah.
you stood next to Mikel Arteta, who, you know, hello, my name's Sophie. I have a confession to make. At the beginning, I was not anti, but I felt like, was he the man for the job? And I questioned it. You know, you've been on the show. We've talked about this before.
alone.
And you cannot deny what he has done, what Edu's done, and how the Cronkies have backed him. You spoke to him pitch side. Give our listeners your take on the vibe that you got from Mikel and what you think.
Well, I mean, the vibe is he never wants to talk to the media. So he came over, he's like so nice, but like he's just gives you nothing. So, I mean, I think he's done a brilliant job, but I can't help but be like, can you please just give us something? You're so good at your job. It's okay. We're not going to steal your ideas. We're not going to take them away from you. We're not, honestly, you're not going to end up on the front page of the Sun. I'm not trying to catch you out. Please just, you know, so for example, I didn't have time, but one of my questions was going to be asking him for an insight into Eddie Nketiah's mentality, right? Because I think that's interesting because there's so much speak about him outside of the football pitch. And I want to know a bit about him as a person. But even if I'd asked him, we wouldn't have heard anything back. It's just the way Arteta is. Pep's a little bit like it, and he likes to model himself on Pep. We know that for certain. I just wish she'd loosen up a little bit, Soph. I wish he would just like
needs a Xanax or like.
Rebecca, I have a serious question. Does his hair ever move?
It's amazing. It's literally the most amazing hairstyle I've ever seen.
He looks like he's one of those Lego lads, like Lego Batman.
It's very.
I just need him to just take the helmet off, the national anthem, and hold it in the side of his arms.
And then just slot it straight back on. Yeah, and he can do that. And I did. I'm not gonna pretend I didn't have a little look at that while he was standing right next to me. I did have a little investigation.
Next time, touch it. Next time, please just touch his hair.
Yeah, but he's
across. Just lean across. Yeah, make out you're touching your hair and just lean across. And
poor
just
Mikel.
Warren,
he hasn't.
Rebecca, what are you doing?
John told me to do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough. The thing about him is he's too serious. So even if like you could do that with like, I don't know, Sean Dyche or somebody, you couldn't do that. You can't touch Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
You're just not allowed.
Is it a seriousness in terms of his mentality, or is it insecurity? Like he wants to prove himself, like chip on the shoulder kind of seriousness?
I think it's both, John. I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think he's genuinely just like, I feel a bit sorry for his wife. I mean, I remember watching the documentary and I do. I'm like, I mean, where in the priorities is she? I feel like she's very far down. I think he's got, you know, training tomorrow, the game next Saturday, training the next day. This is he is like obsessed with Arsenal Football Club. And
I love
if you're an
it.
Arsenal fan, that's all you care about, right? If I'm a Palace fan, I would love, I don't think Patrick Vieira is obsessed with Palace. I got to tell you, more obsessed with Arsenal than he is with Palace. So I want a manager who's obsessed with my team. So I'm fine with it.
Now there's a headline for the Sun.
I think we all know. I think we all know.
Rebecca, she's like, come on now. Come on.
I think we all know Patrick's going to the Emirates at some point if he keeps doing okay with Palace. Although, what happened on Boxing Day anyway?
Maybe after 3 Premier League titles, he can, But
yeah, I mean, So I'm just saying he's obsessed with Arsenal, which is a great thing for you guys. I think he is. I think in front of the media, he has a way to go. I think he needs to just round out a little bit. There must be more to him than what we're seeing. And I think he can afford to give us that, which will then allow people to bond with him more, support him more, want to be more vocal in support of him. I don't mean Arsenal fans, I mean the general media. I just think he's a little bit, holds everyone at arm's length. He doesn't need to do it.
He seemed to trust Jamie Carragher in that interview, didn't he? The player on player vibe. I think that was maybe...
Yeah, and he had a similar conversation with Tim Howard, actually.
Him. There's his
problem, exactly. Yeah.
I won't trust him as far as I can throw him.
Rightly so, Mr. Barton. Rightly so. I want to get all of your take, and Rebecca, just why don't you lead it off, because I'd love John and Warren's feedback on the evolution of this young man who I'd like to adopt and just wrap in.
Oh, no. I've already adopted him. So sorry, paperwork's already filed. I've already adopted him.
You loved talking to him, didn't you?
Oh my God. First of all, he's from Ealing-ish, which is where I'm from in London. So we're basically from the same place, best friends. He is, without doubt, the sweetest footballer I've ever spoken to. I kind of knew that before, but just one very quick anecdote from Boxing Day night. He came to talk to us, and I think it was Tim who asked him a question. And at the beginning of the question that Tim asked, Tim praised all of his attributes. And then he went on to ask this question. When he finally finished the question, Bukayo answered it. And then Bukayo at the end said, oh, and by the way, thank you for all the kind words you said at the beginning of your question. I mean, who does that? What footballer, no offense, chaps, what footballer actually listens to the question, number one? That's amazing. Secondly, thanks somebody for it. The guy has been raised right. I have fully filed paperwork. He is my favorite. Continue.
Yeah, I think what he did with David Beckham, with a picture. Can I have a picture, please? I think that speaks volumes about him. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about Pele as a human being. First and foremost, what you like as a human being. He's obviously a wonderful player, a talented player. I was lucky enough to be in Qatar and watching the England game, and I think he was England's best player over the tournament. The way he played, he's so gifted in. He doesn't look particularly strong. He doesn't look particularly quick. He doesn't look particularly. He's got a pass, but he's an all-round, an excellent player. And I think he's going to get better. I think he's, as I said, what he went through. Don't forget, after the Euros, the abuse that he got, he come through as a young person, had support around him. I just think he's a wonderful player. He's a player that you said about Robert Perez. When I played against Robert, I hated playing against him because couldn't get near him, and I think Saka as a wide player, I couldn't get near him because his movement was so good, and I think he's an excellent player, and he's going to be an England legend. England and probably an Arsenal legend as well.
I like the way he handled the question about him being the next Mbappe at the World Cup. Did you see that in the World Cup? You guys see that exposure, and I just the way his personality, his character, his whole mindset took it. He digested the question. And then he just laughed at it. He was just like, no, it's no chance am I the next Mbappe.
And he's good looking as well.
Like, he's in touch with reality, which is great. He's grounded. He's a young man. He's done very well. He's beautiful to watch. I mean, it's great to watch him play. He really is a quality player.
He is who I want my 6.5-year-old to watch both on and off the field. I want him to watch Saka behave as a human and as a footballer, and then you can't go far wrong.
Yeah. I mean, for me, after Harry Kane, he should be England captain. I mean, I don't want too much pressure piled on him. I want him to sign a new contract first. Let's get that out of the way. People keep talking about Mudryk and who we're signing in January. And I'm like, let's sign Martinelli done. Let's sign Saliba, please, and Saka. let's get the spine of this team, and then we can focus on who comes next. And of course, we need more in order to kind of move forward and build. But to me, he's the face of Arsenal Football Club. I can see him becoming a captain and not being fazed by it. He's just been an absolute revelation. And I think Arteta gets so much credit, and I do, for rebuilding the club. I think Saka has a tremendous amount to do with Arsenal fans falling back in love with our club again, you know, and now we are in a situation where we've got a few players that we love. So when Arsenal fans go to buy their new shirt, they're not sure whose name to put on the back of it. And that has been a really long time coming for us. Right. There's 300 plus of you in live chat. I'm bringing Vinny out. Hit the like button. These guys haven't seen Vinny. This is my dog, and he's also our mascot. And he comes out and he encourages everyone to hit the like button. Our chief like officer, Tammy, in the house. Make sure you get everyone hitting that like button. Right. Let's get you guys out on a few of these quick fire questions. If David Moyes loses today, is he pink slip P45? Rebecca? Is he in trouble?
I think he's in a bit of trouble. I think I don't have a brilliant amount of great stories about David Moyes down the years. So probably I am not the best person to talk about him. I think that he shouldn't be in trouble based on what he's done in this second spell at West Ham. But based on the world we live in the Premier League, I think he may well be in trouble. Should he be? No, not yet. Absolutely not.
John?
No, I don't think he should be. I think, you know, what Rebecca and Warren and what you presented us in the beginning, talking about Pele and honoring him and an armband and everything else, and a minute silence becomes commonplace. I think commonplace in the UK has become higher fire whenever you feel like it, just because things aren't going well for a few games here and there. And it's driven by so many different things. But I do think that, look, Moyes has done a great job with what he has, and I do think that there's still a good style of play in football from them, and there's still a lot to be seen. You know, as it look, ups and downs. We played in the league, and we know what it's like. And you go through this time period, and it's tough, and sometimes you can't buy a win. And I think by the time, give him credit to go through and let him manage the game up until March. And if things are still struggling in March, then you can make a decision. But way too early to fire managers. I hate to see it. I think there's so many managers that do their best to keep things together with players, and there's a lot of injuries that come into it. Not way too early for me. You know, he should be able to see it through.
Warren, quickly from you, is he under the cosh?
Yeah, David's done enough to he'll be under pressure, but he'll be able to handle it. Tim spoke about how he works at Everton. You won't get a more hard-working, honest fella than David Moyes. He's been there. He's kept teams up. West Ham would be foolish to get rid of. The owners are trying to sell the club in the summer. There's no better person than for David to keep that club. I was with Stuart Pearce in the World Cup as well, and we was talking about Moyes because Stuart was there for 4 or 5 years. He's a great coach. He's a wonderful person, good coach. He understands what is the situation he's in, and he's good enough to get out of it. No problem at all.
I mean, you look at the bottom of the league, guys. You got 5 clubs there, separated by 3 points.
Yeah, it's tight.
Everybody's fighting. I mean, Leeds. Yeah. You could talk about Jesse Marsh. You could talk about Frank. You know, Lamps over at Everton. I mean, everyone's been talking about fire him, sack him. Just keep it going. They got to be able to grind it out a little bit at a time.
By the way, to your point, John, if one of those teams sacks their manager and West Ham sacks David Moyes, they're going to go get David Moyes. So make no bones about that. You've got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Think ahead. Okay, so Rebecca,
we know you know things, Rebecca, so it's okay. You don't have to tell us, but we know you know things anyway.
She's got the secrets.
And I'm wearing blue.
She's so many lamps she has in the back hotel there with the beds on beach.
Okay, would you call me crazy if I said to you that Tottenham and Newcastle could fall out the top 4 at the expense of Manchester United and Liverpool?
No, not crazy.
No,
not crazy at all. No, that could
stupid. Stupid. Yes. Crazy. No.
So, because the thing is, so often in the Premier League,
epic.
These like romantic stories, not Tottenham but Newcastle, are great for so long, and then they fall away. Leicester on the final day for those two seasons, perfect example. And then kind of normal service is resumed. Every now and then something happens and it doesn't fall away. I'm hoping that with Newcastle, don't care as much about Tottenham because they've had success. I'm hoping with Newcastle are up there
What success?
until the end.
Rebecca Lowe,
Well,
you should know better than coming on this
Champions
show
League.
and
Sorry, oh God. Champions League.
you want to edit yourself?
Yeah.
Success for Arsenal for many
Well
years.
done.
Yeah, exactly, Warren.
Arsenal, that was your
Exactly.
success.
Yes,
nice to see
exactly,
Arsenal
Warren.
In our
They're going
darkest
back.
days, we won 4 FA Cups. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit all languages there. 4 FA Cups, and when we're on our knees. Okay.
Well
The
done,
Arsenal
well
fans
done.
giving
Polishing
homage
the
to
silver.
Arsene Wenger when they wanted him out.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
Look, I don't want him turning up
Oh.
too much at the Emirates, though. I don't.
Yeah, they're all singing his name now. That was like the biggest. Oh,
I know.
Hey, not everybody was anti. Look, this was a lovely moment, but for a minute when we were losing 1-0, I was like, "Go home, Wenger." I mean, you come and put the bock on us, and then you know, knowing that Thierry was there as well, everything was fine. But I don't want Wenger showing up too much at the Emirates this season. I just don't. I was lovely, but let's just let Arteta his era.
Wow,
mean.
Really?
I don't.
That's mean. So
Is it clear to say, Sophie, you're not superstitious, you're just stitious?
No, I want. Look what happened to Man United.
Superstitious.
Fergie's always in the stands watching.
Yeah, but
It's like
that's not why Man United are rubbish. It's not. Why Man United are rubbish.
No.
Yeah, let's be clear on that,
That's a
please.
whole new conversation.
Yeah, that's
that's
a whole new-
episode
Hours
number
on that.
2. Do you guys
Yeah.
promise to come back for an episode number 2 with me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, but
Yeah,
before I let
perfect.
you go, I've got 2 things, right? So real quick, who is going to win the league?
I really
Man
think
City.
it's gonna. Yeah, I think it's going to be Man City. I'm sorry. I want it to be Arsenal. I want it to be Newcastle. I just think it's going to be City. Warren?
Yeah.
Manchester City again. Sorry.
Listen, I actually think City are going to win it too. But to come second after falling off the cliff last season, I think we've learned a lot of lessons. Get back into the Champions League, build up the coffers, reinvest, keep building on the squad. I love to win the Europa League. It's been since Super Kev played that we've won a European trophy, and we've even won the League Cup.
Wow.
I'd like Arteta to take the domestic.
That's old.
Yeah,
That's a long
it's a
time.
long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but we've won other
Don't
stuff.
tell
I
him
mean,
that.
not as long as Newcastle, Warren. You know, not as long as Newcastle. that's for sure.
We're surprised, mate. We never want to win it. We never wanted
Excuse
that.
me for my cough. It's time for
Yeah,
me
more
to
fun.
wrap up because the cough's coming back. I want to play a little video for you on the outro. It's not Super Kev, so don't worry about it. But my co-host of the women's show, which is very important to us on this channel, we're trying to grow our women's show as much as possible. We're proud of our Lionesses, of course, this year. We're proud of our Arsenal women. We're bummed that Miedemar and Beth Mead are injured. That's a real kick in the, for us. But my co-host isn't here, but his worlds collided because he's playing a massive show tomorrow night with 2 super famous women. And he heard that you guys were on. He was going to pop in and say hello. So I have this for you. He was a drummer and a percussionist for the Jonas Brothers, but tomorrow night he's playing an even bigger show with a legend. Here we go.
What is going on, my friends? Demian here. Of course, such a pleasure being part of the Highbury Squad wherever I am, whenever I can be a part of. Kevin, my brother, I admire you so much, respect you so much, and it's always a privilege to be in the same space as you. Of course, Sophie, I love you, my dear friend. I always appreciate your support, and our conversations are amazing. And for you, the special guests, I mean, come on. John Harkes, a legend. What you've done for U.S. soccer is unquantifiable, and I really wish that we would see much more of you on TV and interviews, because you are a gem of a footballer and a knowledgeable person. Warren, I know you have a very soft spot for Arsenal, and I've always loved your analysis, and I've loved your appearances wherever I've seen you. And you have phenomenal suits, my friend, phenomenal suits. And Rebecca, what can I say? Queen of queens, the best in the game. You're incredible. And to hear your voice mention the show that I'm here for, rehearsing in Miami with Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus, to hear your talk about it, and I'm involved in the show in a very, very small way, it's just absolutely surreal. So I admire all of you, and I hope that we can cross paths in person very, very soon. Much love and happy holidays.
Oh,
That's my guy,
That's
Demian.
lovely.
Love him to bits.
That's fair.
And he supports the women's game, and he travels to watch Arsenal women and stuff. And I just wanted to play that for you guys because you're all
Aw.
amazing. And I want to thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It has meant the world to me and to our listeners as well. All right. So
thank
you You can find Rebecca tomorrow. She'll be on your screens. John, for some of our listeners, where can they watch Greenville play? When does the season start?
This year, we're in the off season building the roster and everything. The league starts March 17th this year. So, we've got preseason through February, which was a different, calendar than the rest of the world, but that's how it's done here. But so, yeah, we start up in March.
Okay, awesome. And Warren, what are you up to?
Well, I'm going to ask John if anyone needs putting out the cones and picking the cones up, John. I'm available.
Pips and cones.
Yeah, we actually just had an injury to one of our cone men. We've got an injury. We might be just lower left side in the back there, Warren. Yeah, but
I'm cheap and cheerful.
We might have it.
I'm cheap and cheerful.
Come on, son. Hey, listen, we won a title in 2020 during the pandemic. It was so difficult. And, we've been in the final ever since. And it's brilliant for our young club to do that. And I always love managers. And Warren would be a great manager. If I'd love for you to get involved in the game and coach. So there's always opportunities. That's what we're doing it for. We're always trying to grow the game, right? So hopefully, if I turn around and see all my cones disappeared, I know who took them. I know who took the cones now. It was that Newcastle lad. You know what I mean?
Brilliant. Warren, are you busy? You doing anything on Fox? Are you quiet now? Time off after the World Cup?
We've got the summer coming up with the Gold Cup coming along. We've got Liga MX, MLS. So, yeah, I'll be busy. But
see you in LA next time. LAFC game.
The sunshine. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, of course, tomorrow we'll see you on the telly.
Yeah, I gotta go to bed. I'm going up in like 7 hours. So
okay.
Go and make your bed as well. Go and make your bed.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Gooners, I'll see you tomorrow after Brighton. Let's hope for another 3 points. Come on, you Gunners. Love you. See you tomorrow.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.